Welcome to the Past Bills Podcast, a place where we stitch up history with a side of humor. Join me, your host, Sam MD, in dissecting the past, exploring the wacky world of medicine across civilizations God knows how old, as we embark on this wild adventure through the bizarre and downright hilarious tales of medical practices never before told in a podcast. In today's episode, we lay our scene in the epic-ridden land of Mesopotamia, known today as Iraq, which could just as well be the earliest known civilization in the human history. Well, to historians, it might be an arbitrary starting point in a broader story of the human race, but we will, for the sake of this episode, assume that the Sumerians and their sort of relatives were the pioneers of a more modern system of medicine compared to what is now termed paleomedicine or primitive medicine, which, as we discuss shortly, is still practiced by the so-called tribal societies. The year is 5000 before the Common Era, and you are a lowly commoner who has all the heartaches and the headaches of life rendering you slightly pipped up and insane. You're hearing things and seeing things that are not even there. You had probably committed a sin so severe that warranted divine punishment. Modern medicine will gauge your illness according to the DSM-5 criteria and maybe put you on antipsychotics. But as a Sumerian, you had access only to the Azu or the Ashipu, who were the board-certified healers of the day, one of them specializing in the surgical and herbal treatments, and the other in the art of divine healing. One day, being all morose and sad about the state of affairs that was up with you, you decide to consult an Azu. These healers had specialized establishments, well, very much like today's clinics, where they would conduct the physical exam and the history and all that. You visit your Azu and you find a large cauldron in the corner, not unlike the witches that you see in popular fiction, and a cot, and some surgical and medical apparatus of his choosing in this small establishment called the clinic. This clinic was either a part of a temple or an independent establishment. The Azu proceeds to take history, and after the relevant assessment, he makes his diagnosis and proceeds to treat you on the lines of a demon spirit. He hands you a written prescription, probably that read like,
Small pig's girl walked slowly in the dark dung and garnished with grilled crow feathers, to be taken thrice daily.
This pro-emetic remedy served twofold benefits. It would shepherd the hordes of devils out of your body, because such a noxious concoction would make you an uncomfortable abode for the spirits. And lastly, but most importantly, as Shakespeare puts it, one pain is lessened by another's anguish, one desperate grief cures with another's languish. Take thou some new infection to thy eye, and the rank poison of old will die. To say, the poor patient will never find himself disease-stricken ever again. Well, this aspect, as I've described just now, is called Drug Apothecary, or dirt pharmacy. It was associated more specifically with paleomedicine, as I hinted earlier, or the prehistoric or Neolithic aspect of medical practice. The Sumerians, however, were more advanced than that. To them, medicine, healing, conjuring, divination, spells, incantations, they were all one and the same. Yes, there was specialization to a certain degree, but the general idea was to practice holistic healing, as they now call it. The prescribed herbs were reinforced with invocations to gods and goddesses of health. There's a remarkable body of evidence that we find preserved in the form of cuneiform tablets that, along with other aspects of this long-forgotten civilization, document the art of healing. We find that some of these tablets are very similar to that day's WebMD.
If a man has this symptom, do this. If a man has that symptom, do that.
The Sumerians, they had also identified distinct entities that are now termed pneumonia, schistosomiasis, dysentery, convulsive disorders, etc. we find a record of around 250 vegetables and about 100 mineral drugs that were in common practice. Some examples being table salt, thyme, willow, pear, fig, honey, turtle shell, snake skin, and all the different types of milk that you see white belly girls endorsing. There's also this concept of signatures, or the doctrine of signatures. The idea goes that all that God has created has a purpose. We might never understand it, but there always is. He has garnished this world with innumerable types of herbs, shrubs, insects, and whatnot. So what this meant was that you ought to see the similarities in the natural stuff and the disease you wanted to cure. For instance, the yellow petals of a flower might be the sign that it could be used for jaundice. The red meat of beetroot or carrot could just as well be a cure for anemia. Or a plant with heart-shaped leaflets could be used in heart disease. Interestingly, not only were these remedies put to use and recorded in the cuneiform tablets, we also find recommendations and comments, testimonials, and personal endorsements for these treatments recorded in these same tablets, in fact. Moving on to another aspect of medical practice, we all know what else the doctors are known for: charging handsome money, right? So there was a ruler called Hammurabi who had prescribed a set of laws and written a code, in fact, which is known popularly as the Code of Hammurabi. We find that he had sort of advised a sliding scale system for physician compensation, if I might call it that. Take major surgeries, for instance. The doctor's fee depended on the socioeconomic status of that patient. For example, for a government official or an elite, it was 10 shekels of silver, while for a commoner like you and I, 5, and for a slave, only 2. There were also penalties for performing the wrong procedures and causing the death of the patient, who would spare you the information. As you might have observed, the information I've just presented is oddly specific. This is thanks to the meticulous scribal practice of the Mesopotamians, leaving us with anonymously recorded text from a bygone era. While researching for this episode, I was genuinely surprised by the level of structure that existed at the very dawn of civilization. I definitely want to explore some other interesting aspects of that time, related to medicine, of course, but in shorter bonus episodes, so please stay tuned for those. And that's a wrap on today's episode. So until next time, keep your leeches closed, your antibiotics closer, and your sense of humor closer. This is Sam MD signing off from the Past Pills podcast and reminding you to wash your hands before the history repeats itself. Be sure to leave a review wherever you get your podcast. It helps other people find the show. Stay historical, fam.